Hello, my dear ones, and welcome to Mama Joyce's Stories. Oh, how wonderful it is to have you here, like family gathered around the fireside. I'm Mama Joyce, your wise old storyteller, and today I'm opening up a chapter from my life that's filled with more twists and turns than a country road at midnight. It's from my younger days in the 1970s, a time of bell-bottom jeans, vinyl records, and trusting your heart a little too freely. No smartphones to spy with, just intuition and a whole lot of hope. This isn't just any story. It's about my high school sweetheart, the dream we built, the betrayal that shattered it, and the unexpected twists that taught me life's hardest lessons. There'll be suspense, heartache, and even a surprise or two that I didn't see coming back then. If you've ever felt the sting of love gone wrong or wondered if you can trust again, this tale is for you. We'll take our time, savoring every moment, so grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's journey back together. And remember, dears, every storm passes, leaving wisdom in its wake. Let's begin. Picture this, my loves. It's 1972, and I'm just 15-year-old Joyce living in a quaint Midwest town where the air smelled of fresh-baked bread from the local diner and the sound of crickets filled the summer nights. Life was simple, helping Mama with chores like hanging laundry on the line or tending the vegetable garden. Attending church on Sundays, where the organ music echoed through the wooden pews, and daydreaming about what lay beyond our sleepy streets. School was my daily adventure. Lincoln High, with its worn brick walls, the sharp ring of the bell between classes, and the chatter of teens swapping notes in the hallways. That's where I first laid eyes on Tom. He was the kind of boy who turned heads, tall and lean, with tousled brown hair that fell just right, and a mischievous grin that could light up the darkest room. In freshman English class, he sat 2 rows ahead of me, always the class clown, mimicking the teacher's stern voice to make us all giggle. I was the quiet type, scribbling poems in my notebook during breaks. But one day, fate stepped in. We were assigned a group project on Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Tom turned around, flashed that smile, and said, "Hey, Joyce, looks like we're partners. Don't worry, I'll make sure we ace this. What's your take on Huck's river journey?" I was nervous, my cheeks flushing as I stammered my ideas, but his easygoing nature pulled me out of my shell. We started meeting after school at the town library, the smell of old books and polished wood filling the air. We'd pore over pages, munching on candy from the corner store, and before long our talks shifted from literature to life. He shared stories of his chaotic home, 5 siblings running wild, a dad working long hours at the mill, and a mom who baked the best apple pies. I opened up about being an only child, feeling a bit isolated, but full of dreams. It was like we'd known each other forever. Have you ever met someone who just gets you, dears? That's how it felt. Our first date was pure enchantment. Tom borrowed his dad's old Chevy and took me to the drive-in theater. We watched The Godfather, the screen flickering under a blanket of stars, sharing buttery popcorn and nervous glances. When he reached for my hand, sparks flew, and our first kiss tasted like summer freedom. High school became a magical blur, sneaking notes in class, cheering at Friday night football games where the crowd's roars echoed, and slow dancing at school hops to hits like Don McLean's American Pie. The music would swell, his arms around me, and I'd think, this is forever. But young love isn't without its bumps, is it? We had our first major fight in sophomore year. I saw him chatting a bit too long with the cheerleader at a party, her laughter ringing out, and jealousy boiled over. "How could you?" I snapped, storming out into the cool night air, tears stinging my eyes. We broke up for a whole week, me moping in my room, listening to sad songs on the radio, him sending apologetic notes through mutual friends. Then, one evening, he showed up at my door with a bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked from the fields, his eyes pleading. "Joyce, you're the only one who matters. I was stupid." We reconciled under the big oak tree in my backyard, promising to talk things out. It made us stronger, or so I thought. Another twist came in junior year. Future plans. I dreamed of nursing school, helping the sick like the kind nurses who cared for my grandma. Tom wanted to follow his dad's path at the factory. Steady work, no fancy degrees. He said we can make it work long distance, but doubt crept in. Arguments escalated, and we split again, this time for a month. I even went on a date with a quiet boy from math class. Awkward small talk over ice cream, but it felt empty. Tom won me back with a romantic picnic by the river, complete with sandwiches and a transistor radio playing our song. "You're my forever, Joyce. Let's plan together." By senior year, 1976, we were the envy of the school, prom king and queen material, dancing under disco lights in my flowing blue gown that Mama had sewn with love. Graduation was bittersweet, the caps flying high as we hugged, full of promises. While other couples drifted apart, we dove in head first. We got married that summer in our little white church, wildflowers decorating the aisles, family cheering, and a potluck reception in the backyard with homemade cakes and laughter echoing into the night. Tom landed a job at the local factory, the clank of machines becoming his daily rhythm, and we rented a tiny house on Elm Street. It had creaky floors, a kitchen that smelled of fresh paint, and a porch swing where we'd sit at dusk planning our dreams. A family, a trip to the Grand Canyon, maybe even a dog. Life felt like a warm, endless summer. But reality has a way of sneaking in. Money was tight. Tom's wages covered basics, but unexpected bills like fixing the leaky roof kept us on edge. I took a part-time job waitressing at the diner, the scent of coffee and fried eggs clinging to my uniform. We'd argue sometimes. "Why didn't you tell me about that expense?" But we'd make up with hugs and apologies. It was real, grounded love. Then, in 1977, our world lit up brighter than a fireworks show. I found out I was pregnant during a doctor's visit for what I thought was just fatigue. The news hit like a joyful thunderbolt. I waited for Tom to get home, his work boots thumping on the porch. "Sit down," I said, hands trembling. "We're having a baby." His face split into a grin. He whooped, spinning me around the living room until we were dizzy with laughter. Annie arrived in the dead of winter during a snowstorm that blanketed the town in white. She was tiny, with Tom's curly hair and my bright eyes, her cries filling our home with new purpose. Motherhood was a whirlwind, sleepless nights rocking her in the wooden cradle Tom had built, changing diapers by lamplight, and stealing moments of joy amid the chaos. Tom would come home from shifts, grease on his hands, and scoop her up, telling silly stories to make her giggle. I'd hum lullabies Mama taught me, feeling blessed beyond measure. We had our normal people problems, bills stacking up and arguments over who forgot the groceries. But in those quiet evenings with Annie asleep between us, life was a dream. Or so it seemed. But dreams, my dears, can crack like old china under pressure. It started in December 1979, a cold winter that matched the chill settling into our marriage. Tom's factory restructured, and they reassigned him to a remote site an hour away. Winding country roads, potholes that jarred his old pickup truck, and winters where snow made the drive treacherous. His shifts ballooned. Leaving before the sun rose, the engine rumbling in the dark and returning long after Annie's bedtime. The exhaustion was palpable, the bags under his eyes, the way he'd slump into his chair, barely touching the dinner I'd kept warm. Annie, now a curious toddler with pigtails and endless energy, would ask for data all day, her little hands tugging at my skirt. I'd distract her with toys or stories, but inside, loneliness gnawed at me. "I miss you," I'd whisper when he finally got home, rubbing his tense shoulders. "I miss you too," he'd mumble, but his voice lacked its old warmth. We'd both be drained. Me from solo parenting, chasing her around the house, cleaning up spills and singing endless rounds of Twinkle Twinkle. Him from the grueling commute and heavy lifting. Intimacy faded. Small arguments flared, like when he'd forget to call during lunch, the landline silent when I needed to hear his voice. To cope, we talked about moving closer to his job. One crisp weekend, we piled into the truck, Annie babbling in her car seat, and toured a charming cottage out in the countryside. It had wooden floors that creaked invitingly, a small garden where I imagined planting flowers, and a backyard perfect for Annie to play. The air smelled of pine and fresh earth. "This could be our fresh start," I said, squeezing his hand as we walked through, envisioning family dinners and laughter. Tom nodded, but there was a hesitation, a distant look in his eyes, like he was holding back a secret. "Yeah, it looks nice," he replied, vaguely. We didn't pull the trigger. Money was still tight, and he said we needed to think it over. But we kept searching, flipping through classified ads in the newspaper, holding on to that hope. In the meantime, I filled my days with routines. Playdates with neighborhood kids, where moms would gossip over coffee, sewing little dresses for Annie from old fabric, and writing long letters to my sister for moral support. Life trudged on, but the strain was like a slow leak in a tire, deflating us bit by bit. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of the suspense. Subtle changes crept in. Tom coming home later than usual, his clothes carrying a faint scent of perfume that wasn't mine, or excuses about work meetings that didn't add up. My intuition, that quiet inner voice, started whispering warnings. "Something is off," it said. But I pushed it down, reminding myself of our history. Have you ever ignored that gut feeling, dears, only to regret it later? That's where I was, clinging to trust amid growing doubt. Then May 1980 arrived, bringing warm breezes and the first real storm. It was the end of the month, a Friday evening, heavy with the scent of blooming lilacs. Tom usually rolled in around 9 p.m., his truck's headlights cutting through the twilight. I'd put Annie to bed, her soft breaths filling the nursery, and prepared his favorite, apple pie baking in the oven, the cinnamon aroma wafting through the house. But 9 became 10, then 11. The clock ticked loudly in the quiet kitchen. I paced, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. A car accident on those dark roads? A breakdown with no payphone nearby? I called his work line, endless ringing, no answer. By midnight, panic set in. I sat by the window, curtains drawn back, straining for the sound of his engine. Nothing. Annie stirred once, calling out in her sleep, and I soothed her back to dreamland, my heart pounding. Dawn broke, gray and unforgiving, and still no Tom. Annie woke hungry, her innocent questions piercing me. "Dada home?" I forced a smile, making breakfast with shaking hands. Around noon, the phone finally rang, jarring me. It was him, voice thick and slurred. "Joyce, sorry. Had a few drinks with the guys after shift. Crashed at a buddy's. Be home soon." Relief mixed with fury. "Drinks? Tom, you've never been a big drinker. What's really going on?" He mumbled apologies and hung up. When he walked through the door that evening, eyes bloodshot and clothes rumpled, he avoided my gaze. "It won't happen again," he promised, but his hug felt mechanical. It did happen again. And again, the pattern emerged like a dark shadow. Nights he didn't come home at all, blaming one too many beers at the bar or work running overtime. Some evenings he'd stumble in at 3 a.m., the stench of whiskey and smoke clinging to him, collapsing on the couch without a word. Annie would wake confused, toddling to me with wide eyes. "Dada okay?" I'd hold her tight, whispering white lies. He's just tired from working hard for us, sweetie. But inside, I was crumbling. This wasn't my Tom, the steady boy from high school, the father who'd build cribs and tell bedtime stories. Something had changed, and my intuition was now screaming. I confronted him over a rare family breakfast, the eggs cooling on our plates. Tom, this drinking, these absences, it's tearing us apart. Are you unhappy? He'd snap back, slamming his fork. What do you want from me? I'm killing myself out there for this family. You think I enjoy the drive? His words hurt, but they didn't explain the disconnect. He was home maybe twice a week, just long enough to eat, shower, and leave, his mind elsewhere. On days off, he'd vanish, helping a friend with car repairs or running errands that took hours. Suspicion grew. Was there someone else? Why else would he pull away from his wife and child? I asked outright, voice trembling, Tom, is there another woman? Tell me the truth. He'd deny it fiercely. No, after 6 years, how can you doubt me? I've never given you a reason. And he hadn't. Our past was clean. But that gut feeling was a relentless knot in my stomach. Even on good nights, when he held me, there was an invisible wall. Here's where the suspense thickened. One day, while washing his work pants, a folded note fell out. Can't wait to see you after shift, from Mary. My blood ran cold. Mary? I confronted him that night, waving the note. Who's this, Tom? Some woman from work? He froze, then laughed it off. Oh, that's nothing. She's my coworker's sister. She dropped off lunch once. Why are you snooping? It rang false, a bright red flag. But I tried to trust, telling myself, he's never lied before. Weeks passed, the doubt festering. I lost sleep, staring at the ceiling, replaying clues. Odd receipts for dinners I didn't know about. A lipstick stain on his collar he claimed was ketchup. One evening, I confided in my best friend, Betty, over tea at her house. What if he's hiding something, like secret meetings? Betty, ever practical, said, That's wild, Joyce, but if you're sure, let's investigate. Subplot twist. Betty became my ally, helping me piece things together, checking town gossip, even driving me to his work site one night for a stakeout. The adrenaline was palpable as we hid in her car, hearts racing. That's when I saw it. Tom and Mary laughing in his truck, her hand on his arm. The betrayal hit like a punch, but I held back, needing more proof. Little did I know, the real twists were just beginning. The suspicion became obsession. One morning on his day off, I woke at dawn, Annie still asleep. Tom snored beside me. With Betty's encouragement, I rummaged through his things. Wallet, work bag, there it was. A hidden envelope of letters from Mary, full of affection. Good night, my love. Can't wait for tomorrow. Details of meetings, stolen kisses at work. The first letter had her address from the night he first vanished. Pain exploded, stabs to the heart. But twist one. Among the letters, a photo fell out. Mary, but she looked familiar. Digging deeper with Betty, I realized she was a distant cousin I'd mentioned to Tom years ago during a family reunion story. Why her? It felt personal, like he targeted my past to hurt me. In shock, I copied the letters by hand, showed them to his mama, who gasped, "This can't be," and left one on the table. When Tom saw it, he didn't rage. He broke down. "Joyce, I'm lost. The job stress. But there's more. Mary's pregnant. Twist two. My world spun. Pregnant? With his child? I begged. Choose us. I can forgive." But he waffled. "I don't know what I want." Subplot deepened. His mama revealed a family secret. Tom had a history of running from problems, like his dad before him. It added layers to his lost claims. Suspense peaked as he dragged it out, promising to end it when his job returned local. But July 30th, with days off, He vanished again. Betty and I tracked him, finding him at a motel with Mary. The confrontation was explosive. "It's over," he claimed. But then, twist 3, Mary confessed the pregnancy was a lie to manipulate him. He was stunned, but it was too late for us. By August, I packed and moved to Mama's. Years later, twist 4, Tom reached out, remorseful, revealing he'd been dealing with undiagnosed depression. We didn't reunite, but it brought closure, a final twist of understanding. Healing was a long road, dears. I grieved deeply, but with support, family, Betty's friendship, church prayers, I journaled, walked in nature, and focused on Annie, became a nurse, built a new life. Lessons? Trust your gut. Embrace twists as teachers. Forgive for peace. You're stronger than you know. If this story gripped you, share your twists in the comments. Like, subscribe, more coming. God bless.